Welcome back to the channel Valuable Rare Coins, where we take a closer look at the hidden treasures that might be sitting right in your pocket change. Today's journey takes us into one of the most iconic and fascinating coins of United States history, the Washington quarter dollar dated 1776 to 1976, also known as the bicentennial quarter. This coin isn't just money, it is a piece of art, a symbol of American pride, and for some lucky collectors, a life-changing discovery. Now, before we dive into the exciting details of how valuable this coin can really be, let's take a step back into history. The year 1976 was a milestone year for the United States of America. The country was celebrating 200 years of independence, a bicentennial celebration that was unlike anything before. From coast to coast, Americans were taking part in parades, events, and commemorations that honored the spirit of freedom and unity. To mark this historic occasion, the U.S. Mint decided to do something extraordinary. They released special commemorative designs on circulating coins, including the quarter, the half dollar, and the dollar. Among these, the Washington quarter with the dual date of 1776 to 1976 quickly became the most recognized and widely used. The design itself immediately grabs attention. On the front, or obverse, the coin still carries the familiar portrait of George Washington, America's first president, a figure that has been on the quarter since 1932. But flip it over, and you'll see something truly unique. The reverse side was redesigned especially for the bicentennial. Instead of the usual eagle, the Mint chose an image that symbolizes both strength and patriotism. This design, created by Jack L. Ahr, features a colonial drummer boy standing proudly with his drum, while above him shines a victory torch encircled by 13 stars, representing the original 13 colonies. This imagery captures the spirit of 1776 and the struggles that led to the birth of the nation. What makes this coin stand out is not just its design, but also the fact that it was produced in different versions. Millions of them were made for circulation, but the Mint also released special collector's editions. Some were struck in 40% silver and packaged in proof and uncirculated sets. These special silver bicentennial quarters were not intended for everyday use and were meant specifically for collectors. And here's the exciting part, these are the very coins that, depending on condition, rarity, and sometimes minting errors, can sell for jaw-dropping amounts today. When we talk about coins, collectors are always obsessed with details. Things like where the coin was minted make a huge difference. Bicentennial quarters came from the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. If you look closely, you'll see mint marks like a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. The San Francisco coins, especially the ones made of silver in proof condition, are particularly sought after. And when you combine that with a flawless grade from a professional grading service, you get a coin that can be worth far more than you ever imagined. But there's another layer to this story: minting errors. Collectors love coins that tell a story of imperfection. Some bicentennial quarters were struck off-center, others were double-die varieties, and some even have planchet errors where the coin was struck on the wrong type of metal. Each of these unusual quirks can dramatically increase the coin's value, because they are rare and one of a kind. Imagine having a coin that millions of people recognize, but yours has something so unique that no one else has. It's like holding a piece of history that is completely irreplaceable. Now let's talk about condition, because in the coin world, condition is everything. The grading system ranges from coins that are heavily worn from circulation all the way to coins that are considered mint state, or even proof. The difference in value between a circulated bicentennial quarter and one that has been preserved in pristine condition can be staggering. A well-worn quarter might only be worth its face value or a few dollars at most, but a rare silver-proof coin that is perfectly preserved can sell for thousands. And in some extraordinary cases, the value goes even higher, much higher. Think about it for a moment. A quarter is something we toss in a jar, slip into a vending machine, or spend without a second thought. Yet hidden among them could be a coin so rare and so valuable that it could completely change someone's life. The Washington quarter dollar 1776 to 1976 is a reminder that history is not just found in museums, it's something we can hold in our hands, something that connects us directly to the past. Collectors across the globe hunt for these bicentennial quarters, not just for their beauty, but for the thrill of discovery. Every coin has a story, and this one tells the story of a nation's 200th birthday, a moment of unity, celebration, and pride. Whether you're a serious numismatist or just someone who enjoys checking their pocket change, the possibility of finding a rare bicentennial quarter adds a spark of excitement to everyday life. And now we arrive at the part you've been waiting for, the value. While most bicentennial quarters are worth only a modest premium, there are extraordinary examples out there that break all expectations. A perfect condition bicentennial quarter, struck in silver and preserved with absolute care, or one with a rare and dramatic minting error, has sold for an astounding $175,000, yes, $175,000 for a single quarter. So the next time you come across a 1776 to 1976 Washington quarter dollar, take a closer look. Check the condition, look for mint marks, and see if you notice anything unusual about its strike. What seems like an ordinary coin could in fact be an extraordinary treasure, and that's the beauty of coin collecting, you never know what you might find. A simple piece of change could hold a story of freedom, history, and incredible value. If you found this video fascinating and you want to keep uncovering the secrets of rare and valuable coins, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you'll always be the first to know when we reveal another hidden gem. Today, we're uncovering the fascinating story of one of America's most talked about coins, the Washington quarter dollar from 1965. At first glance, it might seem like just another ordinary quarter you've seen countless times, but as we'll explore, this particular coin carries with it a dramatic turning point in U.S. coinage history, an unexpected legacy, and in rare cases, a value that could absolutely astonish you. To really understand the 1965 quarter, we need to travel back to the early 1960s, a time of great change in the United States. Up until 1964, Washington quarters had been struck in 90% silver. For decades, Americans carried real silver in their pockets every day without even thinking about it. But by 1965, the rising price of silver created a crisis. People were hoarding coins, melting them down, and the government realized that continuing to make coins out of silver was no longer sustainable. That year marked the birth of a brand new era in coinage, when the mint officially transitioned from silver coins to a clad composition of copper and nickel. And right at the heart of that shift was the Washington quarter dollar. The 1965 Washington quarter holds enormous historical significance because it was the very first year of the new clad coinage system. Gone was the beloved 90% silver, replaced instead by what became known as the copper-nickel sandwich design, a pure copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of nickel. This change was controversial at the time. Many Americans were suspicious of the new coins, believing they looked different, sounded different when dropped, and didn't carry the same value as their silver predecessors. And while the government tried to assure the public that these new coins would be just as useful, collectors knew immediately that the silver era had ended, and the clad era had begun. When we look at the design, the 1965 quarter still proudly features George Washington on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan. His profile has remained one of the most enduring images in American coinage. The word Liberty arches boldly above his head, the date 1965 rests below his portrait, and the national motto, "In God We Trust," is inscribed to the left. Flip the coin over and you'll find the familiar heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows and olive branches, a powerful image symbolizing both America's strength and its desire for peace. The design remained unchanged, but the metal beneath it told an entirely new story. Now, here's where the intrigue of the 1965 quarter really comes in. While the mint had ordered an end to silver coinage after 1964, the transition wasn't seamless. Some silver planchets, those blank discs used for striking coins, remained in the machinery. As a result, a small number of 1,965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets intended for earlier coins. These rare transitional era coins are among the most sought-after pieces in all of numismatics. Imagine holding a coin that shouldn't even exist, a mistake of history that slipped through the cracks and entered circulation unnoticed. That's what makes these rare 1965 silver quarters so valuable today. Collectors look closely at the details to identify such coins. The weight is one major clue. A standard clad quarter from 1965 weighs about 5.67 grams, while the silver version weighs around 6.25 grams. That small difference can mean the world when it comes to value. Another sign is the sound. A silver quarter makes a distinct ringing tone when dropped compared to the duller sound of the copper-nickel clad version. And of course, the edge of the coin is a giveaway too. Regular clad quarters show a visible copper stripe when viewed from the side, while silver quarters appear solid silver all the way through. These details might seem minor, but to a collector, they are the keys to unlocking a potential fortune, but rarity doesn't stop with silver planchet errors. Other minting mistakes occurred in 1965 as well. Some quarters were struck off-center, some display doubling in the lettering or the date, and some even have striking anomalies that make them completely unique. Error coins are always a hot commodity among collectors because they stand out from the millions of standard coins. The thought that you could be carrying a one-of-a-kind coin in your pocket is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. Condition is another factor that transforms the value of a 1965 quarter. Most of these coins circulated heavily, enduring years of use, scratches, and wear. But if a coin is found in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially one preserved as a proof or in a high mint state grade, its value can skyrocket. Grading services evaluate coins under magnification, assessing every tiny detail, from the shine of the luster to the sharpness of the strike. The higher the grade, the rarer the coin, and the higher the price it can command. It's fascinating to think about how something so common, just a simple 25-cent piece, can have such dramatic differences in value based on history, composition, and condition. To most people, a 1965 quarter is nothing more than pocket change, but to collectors who know what to look for, it can be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. That's the magic of numismatics, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. And now, we arrive at the part you've been waiting for, the ultimate reveal of value. While a regular 1965 quarter in circulated condition might only be worth its face value, the rare transitional error coins, especially those struck on silver planchets and preserved in outstanding condition, have commanded staggering sums at auction. In fact, one of these rare 1965 Washington quarter dollars has been valued at an incredible $85,000, yes, $85,000 for a single quarter. So the next time you come across a 1965 quarter in your pocket, take a closer look. Weigh it, examine its edge, check for doubling or unusual features. What appears to be just another everyday coin could, in reality, be the discovery of a lifetime. Today we are shining a spotlight on a coin that at first glance may look ordinary, yet carries with it an incredible story of transition, change, and value, the Washington quarter dollar from 1966. For many people this coin is simply pocket change, something to drop in a parking meter or use in a vending machine. But as we will uncover, this coin represents a turning point in U.S. monetary history, and in rare cases it can be worth far more than anyone would ever imagine. To appreciate why the 1966 Washington quarter is so special, let's travel back to the mid-1960s. In 1964 the United States Mint struck its last quarters made of 90% silver. For decades American coinage had been produced with real silver, giving everyday money intrinsic value. But rising silver prices during the early 1960s created a massive problem. People began hoarding coins, melting them down for their silver content, and the government feared a shortage of circulating currency. The solution was radical. Beginning in 1965, the mint officially removed silver from quarters and dimes, replacing it with a new copper-nickel clad composition. That change fundamentally altered not just the value of coins but also the way people thought about their money. The 1966 quarter was only the second full year of this new clad coinage. These quarters were struck with a pure copper core sandwiched between outer layers of nickel, giving them the same silvery appearance without the cost of actual silver. At the time many Americans weren't happy about the change. The new coins sounded different when dropped, they looked different under the light, and they lacked the intrinsic value that silver provided. Yet they soon became the standard, and today almost every quarter in circulation follows this clad design that began in 1965 and continued through 1966. Even though the composition changed, the design of the Washington quarter in 1966 remained familiar and iconic. On the obverse side, the portrait of George Washington, first introduced in 1932 to commemorate his 200th birthday, continued to grace the coin. Sculpted by John Flanagan, Washington's profile stands tall with the word liberty above his head and the national motto "In God We Trust" to the left. The date 1966 rests below, reminding us of this pivotal year in coinage history. Turning the coin over, the reverse still features the majestic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows in its talons as a symbol of readiness for defense, while olive branches rest beneath as a symbol of peace. Although the design remained unchanged, collectors today see the 1966 quarter as much more than a routine piece of change. It is a symbol of America's transition away from silver coinage forever. What makes the 1966 quarter especially intriguing for collectors is not only its place in history but also the unusual circumstances of its production. To prevent further hoarding, the Mint made the decision not to strike any mint marks on quarters in 1965, 1966, or 1967. This means that unlike most other years, you will not find a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco on these coins. All quarters from this period appear identical regardless of where they were minted, making them a unique exception in U.S. coinage history. This decision adds a layer of mystery and makes high-quality examples even more interesting to collectors, but here is where the story becomes even more exciting. Although the Mint officially removed silver from circulation in 1965, accidents sometimes happen. Planchets, the blank discs used to strike coins, can occasionally get mixed up. As a result, a few 1966 quarters are believed to have been mistakenly struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. These rare transitional errors are incredibly valuable because they should not exist. They represent a mistake in the minting process, and collectors pay enormous premiums to own such unusual pieces of history. Imagine finding a quarter in your pocket that appears normal but is secretly made of silver in a year when no silver quarters were supposed to exist. That's the thrill that drives collectors to search through rolls of coins every day. Even among the regular copper-nickel-clad coins, errors are highly prized. Some 1966 quarters show off-center strikes, double-die errors, or unusual planchet flaws that make them one-of-a-kind. Each error tells its own story about what happened inside the mint, and because they are rare, collectors see them as treasures. It's these unique differences that can transform an ordinary coin into something worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Condition also plays a crucial role. Most 1966 quarters circulated heavily, meaning they have scratches, wear, and dull surfaces from decades of use. But the rare few that were preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition have values that soar well above their face value. Professional grading services evaluate these coins on a strict scale, taking into account every detail of the strike, the shine of the luster, and the absence of blemishes. The highest grades, known as mint state or even proof-like examples, can command serious money in the collector market. What's fascinating is how such a common coin can hide extraordinary value. To the average person, a 1966 quarter is just 25 cents. But to the trained eye of a collector, details such as weight, edge appearance, strike sharpness, and condition can reveal a coin worth thousands. It's the thrill of discovery that keeps collectors searching, because the difference between a regular quarter and a rare error or high-grade specimen can be the difference between pocket change and a small fortune. Think about it, millions upon millions of 1966 quarters were struck, yet hidden among them could be a handful of rare transitional errors or high-grade examples that most people would overlook. This is what makes coin collecting so exciting. Every coin has a story, and some stories are worth far more than you could ever imagine. And now we reach the most exciting part of all, the value reveal. While most 1966 Washington quarters are worth only a modest amount above face value, certain rare varieties, particularly those struck in error on silver planchets and preserved in exceptional condition, have been known to sell for astonishing sums at auction. In fact, one of these rare 1966 quarters has been valued at an incredible $80,000, yes, $80,000 for a single quarter. So the next time you come across a Washington quarter from 1966, don't dismiss it as just another coin. Look closer, examine its details, and consider its place in history. What seems like ordinary change could in fact be a hidden treasure, a small piece of American history that holds unimaginable value. United States of America Washington quarter dollar from the year 1973, a coin that most people believe is ordinary, but in reality, it hides mysteries that can make it one of the most valuable and fascinating pieces in the history of modern American coinage. This is not just about pocket change, this is about a piece of history you might still stumble upon today if you know what to look for. The Washington quarter has been an American classic ever since it was introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Originally, these coins were made of 90% silver, giving them both intrinsic value and beauty. But by the mid-1960s, because of rising silver prices, the United States Mint made a dramatic change. Quarters were no longer struck in silver but instead switched to a copper-nickel clad composition. By the time we reached the 1970s, quarters had fully transitioned into this clad coinage, making the 1973 issue part of this new generation of coins. Yet despite being a modern coin and one that was minted in huge numbers, the 1973 Washington quarter has become a favorite among collectors because certain examples stand out, turning them from common coins into rare treasures worth incredible sums of money. Now, the first thing that makes the 1973 Washington quarter fascinating is its historical context. It was struck during a period of major change for U.S. coinage. Silver was gone from circulating quarters, but collectors were still trying to adjust to the clad coins. The Mint, during this time, was producing massive quantities of coins to keep up with the growing economy, which meant that quality control wasn't always perfect. This opened the door for unusual mint errors, striking anomalies, and rare variations to slip into circulation. These little mistakes, invisible to most people, became golden opportunities for collectors with sharp eyes. Think about the possibilities: double strikes where the coin is hit twice by the dies, off-center strikes that show a portion of blank planchet, coins struck on the wrong planchet like a dime or foreign coin blank, and even dramatic die cracks or cuts that create raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin. Any of these error coins from 1973 can instantly transform a quarter worth 25 cents into a coin worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars depending on rarity and condition. But it isn't just errors that make the 1973 Washington quarter valuable. Condition plays an enormous role. Coins in everyday circulation quickly pick up scratches, nicks, and wear. That's why finding a pristine example in mint state, especially one that has been graded by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, can push the value into extraordinary levels. Collectors often pay huge premiums for coins that grade MS67, MS68, or higher because they are so incredibly rare. Imagine how many coins pass through millions of hands, through pockets, cash registers, vending machines, and decades of use, and then think about the very few that survive without damage, still shining as if they had just left the mint. Those are the treasures collectors dream about. Now, let's talk about proof coins. Proof quarters from 1973 were made specifically for collectors and sold in special sets. These proofs have mirror-like surfaces and sharp details, struck multiple times with polished dies to bring out every line of Washington's portrait and the eagle on the reverse. Some of these proof coins came in silver-clad versions as well, and when found in perfect condition, they can be worth far more than their modest origins suggest. Errors on proof coins are especially valuable because they are not supposed to happen, they are meant to be perfect. A proof quarter with a striking error or unusual toning can command astonishing prices at auction. The 1973 Washington quarter also reminds us of the artistry of American coin design. On the obverse, we see the familiar profile of George Washington, a design created by John Flanagan, which has endured for decades as a national symbol. On the reverse, the majestic bald eagle spreads its wings, clutching arrows and framed by olive branches, a balance between the power of defense and the desire for peace. Collectors appreciate not only the rarity but also the beauty of this design, making the 1973 quarter both historically and artistically significant. But here's where it gets truly exciting for anyone listening right now. If you happen to come across a 1973 Washington quarter that has been preserved in superb condition, free from wear, perfectly struck, and perhaps even exhibiting unique toning that enhances its visual appeal, you could be holding something that collectors are willing to pay life-changing money for. These are not just theoretical stories. Time and again, coins like this have shocked the numismatic community when they appeared at auctions and sold for jaw-dropping amounts. Imagine the thrill of discovering such a coin in a jar of old change, inside a drawer, or among coins handed down from grandparents. What seems like just another quarter might actually be a once-in-a-lifetime find. The United States Mint never intended for these coins to be rare, but the passage of time, the accidents of minting, and the obsessive pursuit of perfection by collectors have made them highly sought after. So, the next time you're handed a quarter, don't dismiss it as just 25 cents. Take a closer look. Check the date. Study the details. Look for unusual features, examine the condition, and ask yourself, could this be one of those rare survivors that slipped through history unnoticed? The answer just might surprise you, and now for the part that everyone has been waiting for. Among the finest known examples of the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from the year 1973, preserved in stunning mint state condition and considered a treasure by collectors, one such coin reached an astonishing value of $68,000. Today we're taking a journey into the world of American coinage, where ordinary change can hold extraordinary stories and hidden fortunes. Our focus is on a coin that many people think of as just another quarter, the kind you might use at a vending machine or drop into a parking meter. But in reality, this coin carries history, artistry, collector passion, and the potential for incredible value. We're talking about the Washington quarter dollar from the year 1972. At first glance, it may seem like just another piece of pocket change, but stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll discover that this coin could be worth far more than you could ever imagine. The Washington quarter has been an essential part of American life since 1932, when it was introduced to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. What was meant to be a one-time commemorative coin became so beloved that it became a permanent fixture in U.S. coinage. By the time 1972 arrived, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for 4 decades, embedding itself in the daily rhythm of American life. But what sets the 1972 quarter apart from the rest? To answer that, we have to dive into its design, its historical context, its minting variations, and the subtle factors that make certain coins rare and immensely valuable. Let's start with the design, because it is truly timeless. The obverse side of the coin proudly displays the profile of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. His image has graced the quarter for generations, making it one of the most familiar portraits in all of American currency. At the top, we see the word Liberty, and right beside Washington's neck, the famous phrase, "In God We Trust." Below the bust rests the date, 1972, a marker of the era in which this coin was minted. Flip the coin over, and you are greeted by the regal bald eagle, wings spread wide, perched upon a bundle of arrows while olive branches rest below. It is a design rich with symbolism, the arrows representing readiness to defend the nation, the olive branches symbolizing peace. Above it all are the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, reminding us of the strength found in unity. Below, the words quarter dollar complete this powerful and patriotic image, but the real story of the 1972 quarter lies in the era in which it was struck. The early 1970s were years of change in the United States, socially, economically, and politically. The Vietnam War was drawing to a close, the Watergate scandal was beginning to shake the nation's confidence in government, and inflation was becoming a growing issue for the American economy. By 1972, the quarter was no longer made of silver, as silver had been removed from circulating quarters starting in 1965 due to rising costs. Instead, the coins were struck in copper-nickel clad, which made them affordable to produce but also meant that pristine, high-quality specimens had to be carefully preserved to survive the test of time. Now, while millions of 1972 quarters were produced in Philadelphia and Denver, not all coins are created equal. Condition plays a massive role in determining value. A coin that spent decades being passed from one hand to another, buying sodas and snacks, will likely be scratched, worn, and dinged. But a coin that was carefully set aside, untouched, and preserved in uncirculated condition is something entirely different. Collectors prize such coins because they show every detail of the design as it was meant to be seen: sharp, clean, and flawless. Beyond condition, mint errors and varieties can make the 1972 quarter especially valuable. During production, mistakes occasionally occurred. Some coins may have been struck off-center, while others might have doubled images where letters or numbers appear shadowed, creating what's called a double die error. These are not just mistakes, they are unique accidents that make each coin one of a kind. Collectors go wild for these, because finding one is like uncovering a secret hidden by the mint itself. Error coins are rare, and rarity always drives up value. Even regular issues of the 1972 quarter can have fascinating differences. Quarters minted in Philadelphia, for instance, bear no mint mark, while those struck in Denver carry a D just to the right of Washington's hair ribbon. San Francisco, on the other hand, produced proof coins with the S mint mark. Proof coins are especially striking because they were struck multiple times with polished dies on specially prepared planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish. These were not intended for circulation but rather for collectors. Finding a 1972 proof quarter in perfect condition is like holding a miniature piece of art, shimmering with detail and quality, but here's where the excitement builds. Most people who see a 1972 quarter think of it as nothing more than a simple 25-cent piece. It jingles in pockets, it gets tossed in drawers, and it often goes completely unnoticed. Yet, hidden among the millions are those rare gems, the error coins, the proof specimens, the perfectly preserved examples, that stand apart from the rest. And when those coins appear at auctions or in private sales, they don't just sell for a few dollars above face value, they can reach staggering amounts. Think about it for a moment. Something as ordinary as a quarter, a coin you could easily overlook, has the potential to change someone's financial future. That's what makes the world of numismatics so thrilling. Every coin has a story, and every coin holds the possibility of becoming a treasure, and now, after uncovering its history, design, symbolism, and unique collector appeal, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While most 1972 quarters are worth only face value, the rarest examples in perfect condition, especially those with striking errors or special characteristics, have been valued at an astounding $69,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $69,000 for a single quarter from 1972. Imagine finding one of these in a forgotten jar of change or tucked away in an old collection. That tiny coin could be worth more than a brand new car, more than a year's salary, and in some cases, even more than someone's entire savings. So, the next time you come across a 1972 Washington quarter dollar, don't just pass it along without a second thought. Look closely at its details, examine its condition, and check for unique errors or mint marks. You could be holding an incredible treasure in your hands, a coin that bridges history, artistry, and unexpected fortune. Thank you for joining us on this exciting journey through the story of the 1972 Washington quarter dollar. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future stories of rare and valuable coins. Until next time, happy hunting, happy collecting, and may your next quarter be the one that changes everything.